Hello and welcome back to Dial H for Heroclix. I'm your sexy ranch hand co-host Kalder and Simeon. This is episode 288. Howdy, howdy, let's get rowdy. Dial H for Heroclix is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, including all the latest Heroclix singles and sealed products. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com. Joining me in the studio today is my good friend, co-host, Simeon Bruce. What's going on, Simeon?
Aloha, Kalder.
Ooh, look at that. That's fancy speech for...
cultured.
Yeah, that means family, right? That's that one? Pretty sure it does.
I think that's Owana, or I don't know. Stitch taught me that one, but I can't remember.
That's the Elvis one, right? Anyways, we like to start off every week without incredibly limp banter with what made us happy this week. Simeon, you got something to make you happy this week?
Yeah, what made me happy this week is it's getting cold out, so the cold season means that Infusion is bringing back their pistachio porter, and, you know... I don't know if you've ever been a big fan of like pistachio ice cream or pistachio like pudding or like any pistachio flavored foods, but their pistachio porter is really good.
Well, all right. I can probably say I've never had, besides pistachios themselves, like pistachio flavored anything else. Unless you consider Tow Mater's pistachio flavored ice cream. I've had some of that sometimes. If you know specifically what that means from the amazing movie of Cars 2. But no, that's cool. It's good. I like seasonal drinks coming around. Is always good. Yeah, it's good. Anyways, moving on. It's what made me happy this week. We had the last week, or really this was our show week, of A Christmas Carol. We had 6 show dates, one Thursday, one Friday, and then 2 on Saturday and Sunday. And that was it. It was only a one weekend show. We got them all done. I had a blast. I absolutely loved this amazing cast and crew of incredibly talented actors and everybody, and I really thought we gave a pretty amazing show. Our director did say, on the last show, I like to do something stupid because it's the last show and who cares? And he did say before the little cast meeting we had, he's like, hey, look, people are still seeing it for the first time, so just act the same way you've been doing it the entire time. And I'm like, yep, sure will. You know. Like a liar, I said that. So there's one scene where I'm not Fred, and I change my character who actually has lines. He's somebody else. So I've been doing a different voice that's not like my Merry Christmas, God bless us, like whatever. So I did Cord for the last night. So I was like, oh, what's the matter with him? What's he done with his money? I know it doesn't sound like Cord. I know it's pretty poor, but I was basically doing just a really bad accent, pretty much. And then and I took a few more liberties with my character and all the other scenes and like did things that I was maybe unsure whether or not to do, but they got a laugh out of the audience, so, you know, it was totally worth it. And I really enjoyed that. I'm really going to miss, you know, every time you go to like maybe a camp or a meeting or a convention or whatever, you hang out with a group of people and, you know, kind of like as you're saying goodbye, you kind of realize like this group of people will never be all together in one spot ever again. And it's like, man, that hits hard. That really sucks, but I just loved the entire experience, loved getting out acting again, even if it wasn't the biggest role, it doesn't really matter. I just had such a fun time. I was really glad that happened, and that made me incredibly happy and ready for the Christmas season this week. Without further ado, normally we would jump into the news sections, but we are still doing our new clicks on the block segment since there isn't a lot of news right now, so we are going to go ahead and start our latest segment of new clicks on the block.
So... you screwed up. You know what you did was wrong. The question is, how are you going to make things right? Maybe you were trying to be cool. But take it from a guy who's been frozen for 65 years. The only way to really be cool is to follow the rules.
The rules! Tell us about the rules, Simeon. The rules of the game. Fundamentals of which this game is built on.
So you got your figures, you got your dice and tokens and your venues and your... popsicle sticks. I don't know what you're using for line of fire, but you got your stuff. So what you need now is to know how to play the game. And so the best place in my opinion, the best place to find the rules is if you just Google. A lot of like my suggestions are just Google.
The internet.
If you
so
just
helpful.
Google WizKids or not WizKids, just type in
Heroclix.
Heroclix rules. It'll very first result will most likely just be direct to the Win system, and it's got all their PDF files. You can look at the powers and ability card. You can look at the 2019 rules, the comprehensive rules, and there's like a little addendum that you can look at as well. That'll get you a good start. That is not the be-all, end-all of the rules, because they're constantly changing, and figures are constantly changing. But that's the best place to get your own copy. In addition to that, you can just buy a starter set, and you'll get whatever that starter set came with, which, if you buy a newer one, should be the 2018 rules. If you buy something older, hopefully it's not anything older than the 2017 rules, because that was when the real big update happened. And you can make buy with the 2017 rules, but you really want to get something that's got the 2018 ones. I don't know, which ones... I don't think EarthX had those.
It had
so
it
would
had
it just
a
be
rule book.
Black Panther?
EarthX had a rule book.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it'd be
It was a starter. It had a
EarthX
rule
and
book.
like Forward. So like EarthX, maybe Rebirth. I don't know if their starter
I
had
thought they
one.
Fast Forces, but also it's Rebirth. So who bought any of that set? It wasn't fast. It wasn't Fast.
I want to
Forces,
say
though.
it was basically a
Yeah.
Fast Forces, because that whole set was kind of dialed back to like something that didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, the tabletop teacher is, I think, WizKids' like main go-to YouTube channel guy for rules, and he's got a lot of like pretty friendly, user-friendly intro level videos on how to start the game, and so that's another good resource if you're more of a visual learner and you don't want to read through all the books. You can get the rules from there.
Who wants to read anymore? Huh. No, but it is really important because he does upload content. I personally haven't watched a lot of it because by the time I think I even knew who he was, I was already kind of playing the game. But it is an absolutely amazing resource for new players, just like how this episode of New Clips on the Block is an amazing resource for new players that want to get into the game and they need more of a visual help or guide instead of just reading. I know. Let's just actually keep going before we get into how we learned, I suppose.
Yeah, so I'm going to say just straight up reading like the rules book, which is what I did try and do that when I first started. But just doing that like alone isn't going to be enough because there's so many different rules interactions that you're really going to need like a good team of people behind you, whether it's the tabletop teacher or whether it's the guys at your own venue, which is what I usually suggest, is get a good venue, people that are actually willing and wanting to like teach new players how to play to get them to keep coming back, and that's your best resource for it. So, what do you think, Kalder? What's the best, worst way to learn the game?
I think the worst way is thinking that just baptism by fire, buying figures, be like, I'll figure it out as I play. That's the worst way. I think it's helpful. I think you should still get that hands-on experience, even if you aren't 100% sure, but you shouldn't just buy figures and be like, look, people kind of, I get moving, whatever. People will explain it to me. That's definitely the worst way. The best way, I think, I read the pack and I read the rule book over and over and over again, so I didn't have a venue to play at for the longest time. And even I still didn't get it. I find videos very helpful. I watched a lot of Glass Cabinet Hobbies videos when he was making them, so tabletop teacher videos, or whoever in the future is making videos. Whenever you're listening to this, absolutely check those out. Those are amazing. I find them very helpful, explaining powers like energy explosion, running shot, things that combo with running shot, things that combo with charge, hypersonic, etc. are very important. I know when I first saw energy explosion, I was like, this is the most broken power in the universe. It's officially my favorite. So that was really cool. So yeah, I learned a lot from like videos, and then it just really helped because I realized no matter how much I read or whatever, if I'm not playing the game, I'm really not learning. So go out and play. Be totally confident. No, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Just go out and play. And honestly, a lot of venues you go to, if you say, hey guys, I'm new, and they're like, oh, we're kind of doing a weird format, I guarantee one person will sit down with you and kind of play and teach you a more friendly, kind of casual game. So just really go out and play, but with the knowledge and resources of knowing what most of the powers do, maybe not what they combo with, but at least like pulse wave. You don't say, oh, what's that one do? Like that's probably a bad example, but like leadership. Oh, what's leadership do? Let me look it up in my pack really quick. It's like, just read through it a couple of times so you have a pretty good understanding of each power. You don't have to be able to rattle off, telekinesis, choose option A to move a character, whatever. It's like, no, I can move something 6 squares. Simplistic version of it. Just kind of work it through in your head how it makes sense. Because the description sometimes is really weird on these powers. Just get it what feels natural to you. That's what I would say is the best way to do it.
For sure. I agree. I think the best is a little bit of everything. Definitely don't just try and like ham fist your way through the rules, and don't listen to somebody if they tell you that it's just like a D&D encounter, and like you roll for initiative and then you just move and attack and stuff like that, because that person's just wrong if they tell you that. I think the worst way to learn is to like show up to a tournament and try and like slog your way through a tournament, which is how I tried to learn. So
boy.
I came in, I didn't have a pack, I didn't have a rule book, all I had was like a few figures, and I showed up one night and they're like, hey, it's the last month of War of Light, nobody's playing like regular, but you can play this. And so I forced my like 4 opponents that night to like
teach you
basically go through like 50 minutes of like, wow, I just want to like play like tournament style and just like crush this guy and move on to like my next opponent. But instead they were like, no, you can't do that, you have to do this, and like that like kind of like having to walk me through the whole thing. But yeah, YouTube, your venue, learn by yourself. Those are like the 3 big ones. And once you get the basic rules down, how to move, how to place, how to attack, like how to roll, stuff like that, you need to start paying attention. So I would suggest, I guess, play without powers, like maybe practice with yourself without powers a few times. Just get like the basic like movements down, the turn sequence, like how many actions you get a turn, all that, get that down, and then start introducing powers. And with powers come great responsibility, Kalder. That's not a quote that's overused.
Nope, never heard of that one before.
So, we need to know what powers stack and which powers can be used in conjunction with each other.
Ooh.
Because this game is all about throwing a ton of powers on a character, and then you can only use half of them at a time. So, what would you tell me if I said I wanted to charge Flurry Blades?
Yep, sure thing. Go for it.
Absolutely. Charge gives you a close, so you got to pay attention to whether it's capital close or lowercase close.
And I have to say, this is a lot easier than it used to be. Now they all have these big all caps letters, close, range, power. Those are very helpful in determining which powers work together. So those are like your first little clues in helping you out right there for sure. Keep going.
And occasionally, the reason why you want to get this down pat, you want to like really get a good grip on this, is you'll get those weird, wonky special characters that can use different stuff with different powers. So we've got a Speed Force Deathstroke who has Hypersonic, and normally with Hypersonic, it's a close or range attack, plain vanilla close or range attack. With the Speed Force Deathstroke, he's able to use like Energy Explosion, and I think he's got a few other options that he can use with his specialized one, his specialized Hypersonic. So you really want to figure out, which powers grant capital close, which ones give lowercase close, which ones are a power action, which ones are a move action, which ones are a free action. Free action is a big one because you can only do it once per turn. You can only activate a free once per turn, and a lot of the time you're going to want to activate all the free powers that you have access to. So you got like Sidestep, Outwit, Perplex. All of those you can use before an attack. You could Sidestep up, Perplex somebody down, Outwit their defense, and then charge. What you can't do is charge and then Outwit, or you can't like Running Shot, get into range of them, and then Outwit, then Perplex. It's got to be done before you begin that action thing. But yeah, you've got like Running Shot that gives you the ability to use a lot of your attack powers. You've got Charge that gives you the ability to use a lot of your attack powers. And then you've got Hypersonic that doesn't stack with most of the attack powers. Actually, it only stacks with, I think, 2 of the attack powers. But it's still good. Just make sure you read through there and you get a good grasp on what those powers entail. Most of the time, damage powers are going to be more passive or free. So, like Prob, it's a passive power. It does not require a free action. You still can only do it once per turn, but that's because the power says that, not because it's free. So it doesn't have to be activated like a normal free action. And then going from those powers, so that's something that you're really going to have to work through, I would say, with other people, because you might practice with yourself like all day long and then find out that you weren't using like leadership right, or you weren't using Perplex correctly, or whichever. And so once you start playing with like other players and they start pointing out like, hey, you can't charge Flurry Exploit. That's one of the big ones.
Right.
You can charge Exploit, you can charge Flurry, you can't charge Flurry Exploit. So that's one of the big ones that doesn't stack. And if you read into what each power grants you, you'll realize why those kind of things don't stack. And to go along with that, is there any other power stuff that you want to talk about?
No, I think you basically covered it. It's just really important understanding like which ones can be used together, even if they don't feel like they can. Like how Mind Control is closer range, so it might feel weird, but you can absolutely charge with it, make a close attack Mind Control, even though it doesn't feel right. Stuff like that, just really wonky ones, things that don't stack with Running Shot a lot. Most of the range-related powers, Energy Explosion, Pen Blast, Pulse Wave, don't stack at all with Running Shot. You can't Penetrating Psychic Blast, Energy Explosion anymore. So there's just a lot of weird interactions like that were changed over the years for balance sake. But once you learn these powers, and playing without powers might feel slow, especially if you are a veteran player and you're teaching someone how to play. It feels really, really painfully slow playing without powers at all. Some figures seem just terribly weak and all sorts of stuff. But once you start playing with powers, you understand how the game flows so much better, and you understand why knowing combos, like, sure, charge is great. You're like, wow, I'm just blown away. I can move and attack. That's amazing. But being able to move and attack and then make 2 attacks is like 1,000 times better. So understanding all the combos and what your characters and figures are fully capable of is just absolutely huge for the base understanding of the game.
Definitely. And then to go along with that, there's like a very basic like setup of how you want to place your figures when you start a game. So you've got this big wide open starting area, and you might think like, well, I want to put my 3 attackers like on each edge. That way I can like control, each section of the map. That's not always like a bad idea. Sometimes that works. It depends on the map and depends on your opponent's force. But your figures might have powers, so you'll want to like pay attention to this. On top dial, you might have a Captain America that's got leadership, and you might place your Iron Man like 2 squares away, and then you move them both up, and if you don't put that Iron Man next to Captain America, well, when you roll for leadership and you get that 5 or 6, you're not going to be able to take the action token off of Iron Man because he's not adjacent. So you're going to want to pay attention to little things like that. Leadership's a big one. People with the flight symbol instead of the boot symbol, make sure you're placing them, when you start the game, make sure you place them next to somebody with the boot symbol, because you can taxi them up. You just carry them up, and the person with the boot symbol doesn't get an action token for that turn. They can't do anything else other than free actions, but they're a little bit closer to the enemy, and they're 1 action token less than they would be normally. So make sure when you're placing and you're putting your like little formations out there that you've got kind of like a little like bit of an ebb and flow to it. There's a lot of powers that are like there's Empower and Enhancement, which are both passive powers, and on the surface they don't do anything for the figure that has them, but man, do they pack a punch if you place them correctly.
Right, absolutely. One of the like worst things I see is having like your flyer a space or two and not just not adjacent to someone who they should carry. And it's like, forgot to place them there at the beginning. I'm like, yeah. I've kind of subscribed to the idea now where my team setup is like the team clump. I just clump everyone together, front row, whatever it is, and then I just move out from there. I used to do what you said before. Put one guy in the middle, one guy on the far edge, one guy on the other edge, and it's just not the most effective way of really doing things. That's how I used to play all the time. And now I'm like, no, I've got 3 Captain Americas on the team. They should all just be next to each other for leadership. Like, that's just the best way to do it. Even though I had 1 Captain America, I could do it anywhere. Either ways, it's good to have those passive powers just as useful as possible. Just get the most use out of them. That is the best way to do it. Flight, etc., all of that. I think that was all just good advice.
For sure. So to go along with like that kind of like team formation, kind of like placing correctly, your basic team builds, depending on like what you build to, we'll go over formats here in a little bit, but depending on what you build to, your basic team build can be everything from like a 1-man army. You just put like, hey, we're playing 300 points. This guy's dial says that he has a 300 point line. So you click him to that, and that's what you're playing. You're playing just that one guy, and man, you're hoping you roll well. You can go from that to like a tent pole where you've got, maybe this guy's only 200 points, but then I've got 3 guys that are like 30 points each, and they're going to boost him up and like help him out. So you've got your big guys. Then you can do things like my favorite kind of team build is like Swarm Team, where you just have a bunch of cheap cannon fodder, and they don't survive if they get hit. Most of the time, just this last week, I played a bunch of Foot Tech, just a ton of Foot Clan Ninja stuff, and they're all about 3 clicks deep, maybe 4 clicks deep if you pay a little bit more. But they're also super cheap, so they're like 15 points, 25 points. And their one downside is they don't have a great taxi. So what you have to do is kind of just, you want to place your guys with passive powers, your enhancement, your empower. You want to put them like in certain areas, and then you want to put all the ones that you're okay with like dying in one turn up in front of them to protect,
right,
and stuff like that.
No, absolutely.
And then, is there any? I know I'm missing a couple team builds, but what's a team build that you would normally run, other than tent pole, 1-man army, or like Swarm?
Tent pole, 1-man army, or Swarm. Besides those, I do a lot of sort of like, it's not really. I don't know if this is Swarm, but more like mini attacker groups. There's one clear, this guy carries this guy carries that guy, and they sort of support each other, and they can both kind of go on their own. Something simple like that, where it's really just more of a, what you would call kind of like a 6s competitive style team. If you're like familiar, like video game sort of like lingo, where you have like a main attacker, secondary attacker, like a super basic team build. One person that's a taxi / support, one healer of some kind, and then one really tertiary attacker, niche character is kind of like one of the more other familiar team builds, where it's like, I just want to play all these characters. Like if I wanted to play the this is probably a bad one, but Serpent Society, they're all just kind of good attackers, okay attackers. They have 1 or 2 that more excel at it, so you would play like those 2 plus 1 or 2 support figures. like that, basically, is a very common team build I run all the time, since that seems to be a lot of their comic accurate figures are swoon into that if they have that keyword more filled out. The Thunderbolts, I imagine soon. The old Thunderbolts were very filled out that way. You know, I know like teams like the Wrecking Crew weren't at all. They were all just like, I attack and he attacks and he also attacks, and we just all attack and we all just are close, and that's all we can do. You know, so depending on how you build, that's pretty huge by keyword and everything, and understanding how all that flows together. But for my basic team composition, for more casual, you know, comic accurate teams, it's normally about one or two really good attackers with, you know, a few support here and there.
Definitely, yeah. So kind of like tent pole, but you split the tent pole into like two or three.
Yeah. It's like two little poles holding up the tent together.
Yeah, occasionally, like, you'll be like, hey, this tent pole's great, but I want like an outwit. Well, like, here's a 75-point piece that has outwit, but also can be a decent attacker. And so now, like, maybe your tent pole is less of a tent pole and more of like a three-pronged attack, because you've got support powers that can also double as like your attackers. So that's, yeah. I know when I very first started, I tried a scientist theme team, and it was all just support powers, and I didn't really have a solid attack. Like, there wasn't a damage dealer that I had on the team, and it was also very slow, and that was a rough night for me. So, like, I never played Egghead after that game, because I feel like
playing Egghead is hilarious.
Like, Hank Pym is just, you know, how dare you play Egghead. But that takes us to, I guess we'll just go over your basic formats that you would play in. So let's say you show up to a casual event, your typical formats, they're going to be like a point-based kind of build. So if you see it on Facebook, if you see it on the win system, it'll say, like, this build is 300 points. Well, if you look at your figures on their handy little dial there, or on the card, it'll tell you how many points that character is. You can sometimes have a character that's worth 200, or 175, or 50. You've got like 3 different lines to choose from. And as long as you start them on that specific line every time, that is the point they are for that whole thing. Building up to like a 500-point team, you can play like some bigger guys and then some smaller guys to help them out. And then once you get your point builds figured out, all you really need for that is like a calculator and a decent idea. Then you can go into what kind of event it is. So our normal event are modern, which is just sets that haven't rotated. Heroclix is a collectible game that does have a 2-year rotation on the main sets and a 3-year rotation on con exclusives. Occasionally some stuff makes it past one of the rotations for one reason or another, and some of Calder's favorite stuff gets retired early.
That's right.
So those now go into golden. So if you go to a golden event, you can play things like Felix Faust that have been retired early. You can play things like Sentry Void. You can play all the greatest pieces that have ever been and ever will be in golden. You can also play anything that's still modern in golden. But in modern, it's only the newest stuff from this point to 2 years back. HC Realms is a great... I don't know why I didn't say this off the top.
Yeah.
But when you're doing a build, if you go to the HC Realms units section, you can filter by anything that your... pretty much anything that your venue will say. So if they say it's golden, it's this point value, it's got to have like a named keyword, it's got to have this or that, blah, blah, blah. You can go into the units section and you can hit whether it's Golden Age or Modern. You can hit whether you want a figure that's 400 points or 500 points or less than 100 points or whatever you want. You can filter by all that stuff. So, and then I guess, so there's modern, Golden Age. There's some variations on Golden Age, which will restrict it a little bit. And then, I guess we'll just go over our favorite, some favorite formats that you've played, Kalder.
Probably my favorite format. I like Golden. Golden is super close to my all-time favorite. Golden with conditions is absolutely my favorite. Some people call this Silver or apparently Copper. Never heard that before, but normally we call it Silver Age, which is Golden figures only. None of the extra equipment, relics, resources, whatever. None of that crazy stuff. I just want to play some good old-fashioned figures I haven't been able to play in a while. And I love Golden, because I still buy Golden Age figures, because they're just characters that I really like, or I think they might do some neat combos with newer figures. So I'm always on the lookout for really fun Golden Age figures I can add to my collection. That lets me play all my zombies that I like to play. It lets me play my Hammer of Thor Captain America, and just figures that I love to death and will never let go, no matter how ancient they are, or how bad their stats might be. That's why double perplexes and 3 weasels on a team is a thing, because I want them to be good, gosh darn it. I don't care how many points I have to sink into it. I just want Howard the Duck to make an attack and kill someone, because it's awesome. So that's why I love Golden Age. And bringing down the crazy is always helpful, and sometimes ramping up the crazy is great too. I really can go with both. Some people, if it's a more casual setting, some people try to break any format we play at all. They're just we're playing Golden, non-restricted except for Felix Faust or whatever. What's the most broken thing I can make? I just think, what's the most funny thing I can do? Howard the Duck is easily getting the Infinity Gauntlet. There's no ifs or buts around that. So I absolutely love Golden Age. Let me play everything. I own all these figures. Let me play all of them. That's my favorite format. What about you, Simeon?
Golden is definitely my favorite. I do occasionally like to bust out some modern stuff just to see if I've got that competitive kind of ability in me. Spoiler, I don't. But I really like...
So humble, this guy.
I really like I really like the ability to go through, I've just got these stacks and stacks of boxes with old figures, and I love to be able to pull out Trinity War Superman and just throw him on a Justice League team, because I still think he's one of the best Supermen we've ever got, and he still holds up really well. I also like going all the way back to Hammer of Thor and pulling out that super rare Ultron that was in there. And even though he doesn't stand up to today's standards, maybe I throw on some equipment that's newer. Maybe I play him with some support pieces that'll bump him up in stats so that he doesn't die right away. That kind of stuff. Plus, Golden Age just gives you this endless backlog basically of Heroclix. I shouldn't say endless, because there's a lot of bad stuff in Golden. Don't just go hog wild and buy a bunch of Golden Age stuff assuming that you'll be able to play it in casual, because there's a lot of bad stuff out there. But there's also a lot of really good cheap stuff that you can pick up, and you'll be able to have tons of fun with it, because I still have tons of fun with my old Wolverine and the X-Men stuff. I have tons of fun with Fear itself, which is older than... It's not as old as Wolverine and the X-Men, but it's pretty old now.
They're around the same. They came out around the same time.
Yeah. And the original Deadpool set is still really cool if you love Deadpool. If you like
wacky stuff, hey, Deadpool has Thor's hammer. That's really, really cool. There's really cool duos in that set. Wolverine X-23, Deadpool and Bob. You can go back and pretty much, if it's carded, there should be about 10, I would say at least maybe 10 to 15 characters in that set that are absolutely, without a doubt, worth playing. If it is non-carded set, I would guarantee there are 2 figures in that set worth playing. We go to Infinity Challenge, there's almost 200 figures in this set, right? I would guarantee, if we just take away the little easy 10-point figures here and there that are just good support, I would say there's absolutely, without a doubt, 2 figures worth playing. Firelord is one of them, and then that Nightmare is one of them, and that's the only few sure. I could 100% without a doubt recommend. I know that Kang. Okay, Kang's actually really good too. Anyways, now I'm starting to look through it, and I'm getting a little off track here, but yeah, if they have a printed 14 attack, they're definitely worth playing. Don't get me wrong. But seriously, out of 200 figures, there's like maybe 5 in Infinity Challenge worth playing. Same thing with all the REV set ones. If they're not random little lackeys or, Metropolis Police, Gotham City Police, just normal police or SHIELD agents or Hydra agents, they're normally not worth playing. And that's kind of a bummer, I know. And even a lot of carded sets that aren't Oreo, and even there are terrible carded sets that are Oreo, Guardians, Galactic Guardians and Superman. There's so many bad figures in those sets. So be a little cautious, but have fun. Even if it is bad, if you want to play that version of Batman or Superman or whoever, go for it.
Yeah, and worst case scenario, like let's say you grab like the best figure out of like Superman Legion of Superheroes. I don't even know what that would be, but let's say you grab like the best one. If it's not a chase, at most it's going to be like $5.
Yeah.
You're not spending a ton of money. Like you're literally spending less than like a third of the price of a booster on most of this stuff. And if it's good for like one night of fun, then that's good enough for me. I can always just like set it on my shelf. That's another thing is like a lot of times I'll just grab figures because I love the sculpt or I don't have a version of that character. And once I get a version of that character and I've got like a cool sculpt, then it doesn't really matter if I play it more than 2 or 3 times a year. I've got a Krang, Undisputed Ruler of Dimension X, and I've only played him about twice, but I love that little brain inside the robot belly. Yeah. And so I'm going to keep him forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, and so I think next thing, speaking of like prices and stuff like that, next thing we're going to cover is going to be next episode. We'll go over how to buy stuff, where to buy stuff, how to trade, where to trade, and, how to sell, like the opposite of buying.
Yeah, some etiquette for how to be a good trader, seller, all that fun stuff. Businessman in the Heroclix community, if you would.
Absolutely.
And that ends this week's episode of New Clix on the Block. Like always, I'm going to put a timestamp here, so thank you so much, guys. You skipped that. Now we are going into our normal episode, where we are going to go ahead and start talking about the news this week. PAX Unplugged is definitely a thing that happened this past weekend. If you were there, congratulations. I hope you had a lot of fun. I don't know what all events were being run. Probably just a lot of battle royales, maybe a few side events. No main events are being run this year from what I could see. But WizKids did have Heroclix on display. Most notably, the beautiful box art and a few really cool characters for Captain America and the Avengers set. I love me some Alex Ross. This is like the third set in a year or so where we just have amazing Captain America related Alex Ross art. Battle World had it, EarthX had it, and now this set has it. And I'm the kind of guy that keeps boosters, or at least one booster, normally of a set that I really like that has really cool artwork.
Oh yeah, this is a great booster for that because it's got that scale mail like Captain America winged helmet.
I love it.
Very classic.
We're just I'm gonna go through the slides.
And they didn't bog it down with garbage Avengers.
Exactly. They kept it to the main man himself, like the way it should be. Now, if only we would see more Captain Americas in all these previews we're seeing. So, just gonna start left from right, saying the characters that we see. We have a super rare, and I instantly forget his name. What's his Alpha? Atlas. That's right.
Atlas,
See, you could not pay me to care about Thunderbolts. Next up, we have another super rare in form Mach 10. Really slick looking armor. I will say this is a really cool looking sculpt from the weird kind of bad angle that we see it from. It's a cool
I just want to say
sculpt.
About Alpha, or not Alpha.
Boom, got him. We got
about
him, ladies
Atlas.
and gentlemen.
Atlas is like the pose that he's in, the way that his arms are spread. I have no idea how he's fitting in this booster unless the camera is playing like a trick on the eye and he's much smaller than he appears. There's going to be like one booster where you like squeeze it and like 2 corners don't bend because it's got his arms like outstretched in him.
He's thick, ladies and gentlemen. He's
a big boy.
I don't know why they would design a sculpt where he's basically just has 2 of his arms totally outstretched. Like they're sort of curled in, but like not really. Like just the way boosters
I had to double check that it wasn't like an Avengers Infinity kind of style set.
Oh, yeah.
Because I saw that and I was like, is that a 2x2? What's going on? And yeah, he's just massive top.
Yep. He's very top heavy. But he looks like, well balanced enough towards the middle that he shouldn't fall over. But once again, it's sort of a thing you have to find out for yourself. Next up, we get to see a real-life version of Isaiah Bradley. We've only seen kind of digital references of it before. We get to see another great Falcon sculpt, which was the same from Nick Fury's Shield. We get to see the Chase Absorbing Man with his little brick wall clix effects. Very cool Absorbing Man sculpt, by the way. He's kind of up on some concrete, doing the classic foot absorbing something else, arm absorbing brick wall thing that we kind of do for a lot of Absorbing Man sculpts. And then we get to see an in-person version of that Ultron as well. Very slick Ultron design, which is pretty cool. Sadly, none of these pictures have good sides of the Captain America set from what I can tell, which is kind of a bummer because I really wanted to know what more, besides just Thunderbolts and Avengers, what more side themes, sub-themes they're going to be doing in the set. Next up, if that's all, that's really it. That's really about it for Captain America in this.
Yeah, they've got a starter there. But...
Oh, they do have a starter. We do get to see the Hawkeye, Iron Man, Winter Soldier, Captain America, Isaiah Bradley, and of course Citizen V in the starter. It's that kind of a weird angle. The Captain America sculpt looks like it's going to be the common Captain America sculpt being reused. Everybody else looks pretty cool. I am excited. Sadly, it's not a starter, it's just fast forces, so we don't get any cool maps with whatever they could have done, so it's just figures. But that is okay. It do be like that sometimes. Next up, talking about the lamest, the absolute garbage part of this is Justice League Unlimited. Who cares? I know. Thank you, citizen who yelled that through my window. We get to see another bogged down DC set with a bunch of Justice League members no one cares about, including, what do we got here on the box? We got Hippie, Aquaman, we got Not the Best Green Lantern, we got Martian Dude. These are all Heroclix sculpts on the front, which they look like Heroclix sculpts on the front anyways. They look kind of cool. Or maybe it's just so cartoony. I don't know. But besides...
They do. No, it does definitely look like they just straight up took the 3D picture of the sculpt and then put it on the box art.
And is that one of the first times we've seen that? Not for the sides, but for the box art itself. Besides the main three, which also kind of look like Heroclix too, but everybody in the background 100% looks like those digital Heroclix sculpts that we've seen before.
I think for the front of a box, I think that's the first time. I don't remember a box ever having that for the main image that the front of the case would, or the brick would have when you're displaying.
So that to me is really neat. I thought that was actually really cool. We get to see one of the sides. It has the 7 Soldiers of Victory and the Justice Lords. We basically expected the Justice Lords to be a sub-theme in the set. 7 Soldiers of Victory is new. That's pretty cool. Glad they're filling that out. The thing I'm most excited for that I see is the Wonder Twins. The old Wonder Twins are not that good, and they are not playable, and they're also still $15 at places, which to me is whatever, makes no sense. So I'm excited to get new Wonder Twins. Very excited. Hopefully they aren't chases. If they are, whatever, I'll live with it. I'll buy them if I have to. But I'm very excited for the Wonder Twins being made. Along with that, we get to see... you do the rundown for this one. I did Captain America. You got this one.
All right, so we've got across on the little pedestal from Wonder Twins, we've got... who is that? The swimming guy. The Black Manta.
The pirate cosplayer, Black Manta, spray painting his little...
I really wanted to say Ocean Master, which is the other bad guy of the sea. But we've got a Black Manta doing a swimmy thing. These two don't have a base, which really makes me think that they're trying to because everything else has a display that's displayed is on a base. So it really makes me think that they're trying to pull one over on us and be like, what are these? And it's well, you're showing us a super rare, so these are probably the chases, but we don't really have any idea. On the bottom, we've got Ultra Humanite, we've got Lex Luthor, which isn't, he's not the Prime, which I was kind of hoping he was, because there is 2 Lexes in the set, or at least 2 people with his colored outfit, so maybe one is the LE. Or maybe he just shares the sculpt with a uncommon.
I'm pretty sure they said the LE was Hot Girl, but I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm 90% sure.
I think you're right.
Okay.
Yeah. So he probably just shares the sculpt with someone else. And then we've got the Common Prime Batman, which I think we already kind of knew he was going to be a Prime because he had 2 sculpts that were too close to not be like a Prime.
Is this one? I can't tell.
We've got Wonder Woman.
Microphone one or something, right? Yeah.
The microphone?
Sure.
There's one that's holding a batarang and one that's holding a microphone, so I can't tell from this angle, but he would have to be the one with like the microphone to be the Prime, I believe. And then we've got Wonder Woman, classic little pose there. We've got Solomon Grundy, Born on a Monday, related to Ted Bundy, all those things. I think looks like he's a rare.
Who
I don't remember him from the
Solomon
cartoon.
Grundy? Never heard of him.
He's a zombie boy. He's a big old zombie boy.
Neat.
I think he fights Superman in the cartoon, so
I think he probably wants pants, but he's already wearing pants. But I just feel like he really wants pants. They're kind of ripped up. I think he wants pants too.
New ones, yeah.
Yeah.
We've got a Joker pose that we have not seen. Oh man, since
World's Finest?
The last DC set.
Oh yeah.
That's definitely
absolutely
straight out of World's Finest, but Joker with his like arms wide, that's an uncommon as well. We've got Jon Stewart, also an uncommon, and then we've got a super rare Martian Manhunter. Oh boy, was I hoping this wasn't a super rare, but at least that means that he'll probably be real mean. The last super rare Martian Manhunter was also real mean, so...
But this is the second Martian Manhunter sculpt we're seeing, because there's one where he's normal and he's like flying towards you or whatever, and this he's like a snake or something.
Yeah,
that's supposed to be.
I can't tell if that's just flight effect or if that's him doing like a shape changey kind of thing.
I feel like that's a shape change. It's so tubular, you know. Like I don't see his bottom legs, the rest of his torso. It's just gone. So
and the image on the box definitely shows like him having legs. So whether they just reuse the sculpt and give him a different bottom half, or if that's like a completely different Martian Manhunter, don't really know.
Yeah.
But we for sure have a super rare one now.
Either way, one absolutely amazing set, Captain America, coming down the pipe, and then one mediocre set coming down the pipe, Justice League. So I'm getting excited for those. One thing I'm a little bummed about is that we've seen like more Batman for Justice League than we've seen Steve Rogers for Captain America, like so far. So hopefully that changes. I want there to be like 5 to 6 different versions of Steve Rogers, at least in my Captain America set. But it's still a little new. It's a little too far out to tell. We're about 3 or so months away. So good things come to those who wait. And that is really about it for news. Any last words on the old PAX news?
Yeah. What I was thinking, since Fantastic Four is coming back, that means Human Torch is coming back, which means a long anticipated member of the Invaders that we haven't had in a while, the original Human Torch, could potentially be in Captain America. We haven't seen any other Invaders, so I'm not going to hold my breath, but I was talking to Devin about that the other day, and I was like, how cool would that be if we finally finished out the Invaders, and we finally got the, I don't know, he wasn't a robot, he was a... He
absolutely was a robot. James
Hammond? He was just a robot, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we got the original Human Torch, that'd be pretty
sweet. We haven't had a good James Hammond Human Torch. It has been a long time. You think we haven't got Rabble Fantastic Four. No, poor Jimmy here. He has not gotten a good version. None are playable, by the way. But even when it was, it was like Secret Invasion was the last time he was made. Yeah, it's rough. And that'll do it for good old news this week. I like that. I would love to see an Invaders sub-theme, but like a good Invaders sub-theme, not like the okay Invaders sub-theme we got in Nick Fury.
Yeah.
Which filled out Invaders we never had before, which was cool. But I would also like to get, a few classic ones. It just felt weird, no Human Torch, no Toro in Nick Fury.
We got Spitfire,
no
though.
Thin Man. Yeah,
who doesn't love Spitfire?
Yeah, she's great. All right, moving on to the community section.
There are dozens of us. Dozens! Dozens!
Yeah, I mean, like, at least 12 to 24. Dozens. This week, Community Tuesday's question was, what's your favorite relic or equipment? Kind of getting into the spirit of the Christmas season, which is right around the corner, where people like to give gifts, and what's better than a gift to equip your best figure with something that makes them a little cooler. Simeon, what is your favorite relic or equipment, or both?
So
Which one?
I've got a couple. My favorite relic is the Auk Arms. Not the new equipment Auk Arms. I'm talking the old triple target, minimum 4 range, can use perplex twice Auk Arms. So you'd throw it on like your big beat stick dude that had like charge and like 12 attack, 4 damage. I usually threw it on like a Hulk, and you'd give him a minimum of 4 range with 3 targets and 2 perplexes. So you could like boost him to 6 damage and target 3 people with it. And it's like, wow, Hulk's just like whipping some Auk Arms around, crazy style.
What a guy.
I used to love those things though. They were really cheap for giving you 2 perplexes. Way too cheap for that. One of my favorite modern equipments would be Mjolnir. I love the thought of having close attacks. It combos with so many cool things. Having close attacks with your full range value instantly makes every Superman way more scary. It makes any Superman-esque character, anyone that like flies around fast, like Shazam, Black Adam, anyone that like hypersonics but also has a range value, instantly more scary with Mjolnir. And then once they get close up, it does more damage and gives them a +1 attack. And then I think the most busted equipment in modern currently is the Time Gem, because you've got 10-point equipable prob, and so you just don't have to put it on your team anymore. It used to be like, oh, how am I going to find like a 20 piece, like, 20-point piece that'll have prob? Now you've got a Time Gem, or you've got a map bonus, I guess, and you've got prob. And then my other favorite relics are all the Yu-Gi-Oh ones, because they're so wonky, and if you play them with the resource, they're borderline broken. But if you just play like any individual Yu-Gi-Oh relic, one gives you outwit, but you can target through any friendly character, and so I would equip that to like a 5-point piece in the back, or like a 10-point piece in the back, and then I had an outwit across the board, and you couldn't do anything about it because the guy that was actually outwitting you was way outside of your line of fire. He's way outside of your like attack swing. There's one that let you see through. It was basically like one of the Yu-Gi-Oh relics gives you like the cosmic Spider-Man kind of ability, where he just sees through everything. There's a ton of like really broken ones that were fun to play.
That's awesome. I actually never got to play a lot of the Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, so that's really cool. One of my all-time favorite relics, I enjoyed a lot of the rings, but I never really played any of them without the resources, since that was just like the most effective way to do it. I liked the Uru Forge. It's one of the first. It's the first relic I ever got, absolutely, and I was like, what? That's amazing. And it's like, it's like okay. It's very easy to pick up. It's very, like you can choose any stat that you want. So, +3 speed, sure, go for it, which I thought was really cool. I used to put that on people like use hypersonic or running shot, give that extra crazy +3 speed. Thought it was really dope. So I really liked the Uru Forge for that. Another one of my favorite relics was the Straight Jacket. I had a lot of fun with the Straight Jacket. It's hilarious. Just putting the Straight Jacket on people. It's like, what you gonna do? They put it right back on you. But then you're like, yes, what I'm gonna do? That's right. The Straight Jacket
Usually
back onto you. So I love the Straight Jacket. It's really fun. Modern relics. It's hard to not say the Venom Pump. I love the Venom Harness so much. +1 stats and Battle Fury when you want it. You don't even have to always have Battle Fury. Like, oh man, rabble, that kind of sucks. No, you get to choose when you want this to happen, dude. It's freaking awesome. I play this so much with Captain America Resilient that I don't even. I'm like, all right, he's gonna pump up the harness, and he's like, I destroyed your harness like 3 turns ago. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm so used to like always equipping the harness on him, like when I play him without the harness, or like on a team that doesn't have it, or if I don't equip it, I just forget. I forget that I don't have it. It feels so naturally. It feels like a Captain America trait, honestly, for that Earth X Cap. That it's +1 stats Battle Fury for a turn.
It's just like extra angry Cap.
Yeah, man. He's done holding back. He's going for it. He's gonna snap Red Skull's neck. You know, we're done messing around. And I like it a lot. There's high risk, high reward. +1 stats is amazing. Battle Fury also super amazing whenever you want it, you know. And then, you know, the risk is on a 1 to 3, I get dealt an unavoidable damage. You know, Captain America, and any team I play with, I don't even try to heal him at all, which is probably terrible because he has one of the most crippling title effects like ever. But even with that, I'm like, yeah, whatever, we're rolling it, because if you don't have to take that damage, it's like, whatever, no biggie. So I love the stat bonus, I love it all. And really, besides that, I can't even, like, I'm looking at like all the relics I have and everything, and I don't play with that many besides the Venom Harness. Sometimes, like Simeon said, the prob gem, time gem, stupid good. I mean, geez, 10 points prob on the team. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty hard not to put that on teams a lot of the time, just because I'm like, I want to play these figures, but I really also need a support power. It's like, well, here's 10 points for prob. You know, that figure is, you know, it's a light object. That figure's got sidestep. You will very easily just have a prob, you know, controlled character in team. Oh, they die? Oh, it just gets dropped. And unless your opponent, you know, destroys it that turn, you just get your prob right back, dude. It's pretty easy. You know, by the way, I have to say one thing for the gems. They are the most forgotten about objects to drop. The amount of times I forget people to see people forget to drop their gems is astounding. A lot of people forget about them. It's crazy. Crazy. But yeah, so many people just forget about them because there's so much unequipped KO in this set, like, or in just in general in Modern right now. So I think that's really, really funny that like unequipped drop catches a lot of people. I really like Thunderstrike as well, because I like Thunderstrike as a character. And then, you know, healing. That's pretty neat, I would say. Moving on, I'll go ahead and read the first one on Twitter. Vigilante Chris Kurtz says, Blood Axe or the Mirror of Mishal, whatever. The Thor set has some good ones. Yeah, Enchantress's Mirror.
Yeah. I love that mirror until you roll that 1 or 2, like
then you're not
the first time you roll for shape change, and you're like, I'd rather just miss shape change than literally destroy my equipment and lose it for the rest of the game. Alex Morse on Facebook says, I generally like the gems from Black Panther and the Illuminati. They're straightforward in the bonuses they give, and they add more excitement to their rolls. Plus, I like the options on many characters to start the game with them equipped. Overall, very fun design. I agree with all points. I like that they're really straightforward. They give you 1 power, 1 stat boost, and then 1 effect if you... Actually, they give you... Some of them give you more than 1 power, so I'm already wrong. But they give you 1 stat boost, maybe 1 or 2 powers, like pretty simple powers, and then they give you a certain thing that happens if you roll high enough. And between the gems and the Brotherhood, I think a lot more people are paying attention to like when they roll 10s and higher, because you normally only notice if you crit hit, but what you don't like pay attention to all the time is if you roll like a 10 or 11, you know, you're just like, oh, I hit. But when you've got one of these on, you got to pay attention. You got to be like, oh, I hit, and I'm going to start TKing objects at you for free. Like,
it's pretty nice.
Reality gem.
Protagonist Ben Jones on Twitter did a quick ask around here. He lives in Aussie, Australia, and here are some of the top ones that people around his venue said. Enchanted Ball and Chain, the Ego Gem, the Nightbringer Ring, and he said, for me personally, he likes all the gems. All are great, but that Soul Gem is fantastic. Yeah, shout out to the show, Soul Gem. It's pretty gnarly, and there's a reason that Doctor Strange costs so much.
Oh, yeah. Enchanted Ball and Chain as well. I've had a few times I've built like a swarm team, and then I had a Hulk come over and quake for 5 on everyone.
Ooh.
And it's just like, well, that guy dies, and I was like, I don't even need to click these. They're all dead. It's done. The game is over. Congratulations. I wasn't paying attention. Citizen Peter Marshfield says, so many choices. My favorite relic is definitely the Black Lantern Ring. Favorite equipment is a tie, Nightbringer Ring, and Exospecs. Black Lantern is the Steel Energy heal 1 when a character is KO'd, I believe. Something like that. Nightbringer is stealth and free smoke cloud, so basically permanent stealth, as long as they don't see through hindering. And Exospecs, as most of you know, is like a Infinity Gauntlet Light. You can pick a speed or attack power, and if you pick one of either, a speed power or an attack power, you can't use any other associated powers.
Ooh, Little Plastic Superheroes, the Ruffian said, if possessors count, then Ion. Nope, they sure don't. And he said, if not, the Reality Gem. Reality Gem is a good pick. I like the Reality Gem for Plex, TK, and then all that extra goodness.
Oh, yeah. Adam Makajewski says, Goblin Glider. There's nothing like giving figures like Casey Superman or Legacy Ares running shot. I could see that on Legacy Ares. There's a ton of figures that start, like, they should be big, beefy monster figures, and their point cost is so heavy that, like, you think that they are, but then they start with phasing. It's like, man, I'm playing this big, powerful 200-point guy, but all he can do is, like, phase up to the person. So you throw on the Goblin Glider, and all of a sudden you're running shotting halfway across the map and blasting people, and that's the way it should be.
Darn right. Next up, Vigilante, Bonsai Tree and Sapling says, Goblin Glider, because someone always needs to move and attack and or flight. The Goblin Glider is getting a lot of love, and I actually really like the Goblin Glider too. Flight and running shot is super dope.
Oh yeah. You can also use Beetle Pod for flight, but let's be honest, if you're gonna give someone flight, you might as well give them running shot.
Give them running shot, absolutely.
And if they already have running shot, they get hypersonic. So
yeah,
double whammy. Steven Spooner says, Exospecs, the amount of versatility it adds to any piece for a mere 12 points is invaluable. I agree. Exospecs was probably one of the most undercosted things they've made in a long time, especially since they came out with the Infinity Gauntlet a little while later that cost over double the points.
Yeah.
For basically the same thing. Gave you a little bit more, but also a little bit less depending on what you roll.
Yep, for sure. Michael Holt on Twitter said, now it's the Mansion Rings, but forever and a year ago, it was the Batman utility belt.
Ugh. Suit of Sorrows and KC Flash. Super heavy object.
Yeah, those words meant nothing to me. Heavy. Just read the next one.
You never had someone hit you with the Suit of Sorrows?
Absolutely. I
with a
can
KC
probably
Flash?
Count on one hand the amount of times I have played against the Bat Belt.
Yeah, I can too, but you remember, because it's a real sore loss. It's always like, I have this Hulk that's gonna, like, do stuff, and it's like, well, does he die if I hit him for 7? And you're just like, he does.
Do.
And then you have to cry a little bit on the inside. Matthew DePaz says, Relic would be Greed, auto-assigned to a giant/colossal when playing Greed Chase, granting sidestep and energy shield deflection. Special object is easily the 009 Infinity Gauntlet, which is the Iron Man one. Any power on any figure is great. I've learned it's better suited for a character with consistent powers down the dial because of the 1-2 risk. I love that gauntlet. I love the characters that can auto-equip it because, like, Rune can have Charge Flurry with his Steel Energy. He can heal to top dial with one attack if he's careful. Black Panther is way more survivable if you give him that gauntlet. So I really like those figures too.
Absolutely. Superfan Demon Hunter said the Time Gem. Always. What a guy.
Oh man. That Time Gem almost makes me want to play Collector on every casual team that I play. Because, like, the amount of times where my opponent is just like, I'm going to equip the Time Gem, and I don't have, like, a competitive team, so I can't get over to it and, like, stop them from it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, man, I wish I had Collector. Superhero Sentinel King Lucas Tom Van Hollen says, Zero Ring. I wonder why. I wonder if he's ever maybe gotten like top 8. By tossing that on like an Alex Wilder or something. What could he possibly use blocking for? I don't know what his tactics are.
Yeah.
What kind of crazy nonsense is the zero ring?
No idea. Sounds lame. Loyal Miller says, them gems! Now, if I have to pick one, it's mind all the way, plus 1 to attack. Free mind control if you roll high enough all day.
Oh yeah, that one comes with Loki.
Loki.
I pulled it and sealed. Didn't play Loki. I just played the mind gem with the Professor Hulk. Gave him a 13 attack top dial. And that was pretty good.
That's pretty good. I'd say that's pretty good.
Brian Poling says, Enchanted Crowbar. It's always fun to watch their big hitter melt when you ignore their invincible. I think Enchanted Crowbar would be great if you see a lot of juggernauts popping up at your local news. Just exploit right through that invincible. Don't even let them stop you.
I absolutely love the old Juggernaut. Juggernaut. No, I hate that guy. I love the Enchanted Crowbar. Actually, really, I forgot to mention that earlier, but no, Enchanted Crowbar is a very solid pick. Anthony Brown goes on to say, don't know if this entirely counts, but I love the detachable present that came with the Joker. Yes, it absolutely does count. Not game-breaking or anything like that, just straight up thematic and fun to use.
Oh, yeah. And to go with that, from Joker's Wild, the clue box that Riddler could pop off his base. That was also, it wasn't a relic or anything like that. It wasn't something that you had equipped. It was just a cool 3D object, and I kind of wish they did more like base-centric 3D objects. But when they do them, I wish that they would fit it onto the sculpt more than just like a little dial that slides in. But that's just me. Tyler Murin says, it's gotta be the Cosmic Treadmill. Do you remember the Cosmic Treadmill, Calder?
I know what it is. I have seen it played before.
You roll like 2d6 if your speed value plus the result is higher than I think it's like 13 or 14, something like that. Then you clear like an action token from everyone on your team. Something like that. So he says Cosmic Treadmill, but if that doesn't count, then probably the Bookshelf or Dumpster from the OG set of 3D objects. For Golden Age and for Modern, anytime a character creates an object after they have been KO'd, like Silvermane and his head, is always a good time. Something about that always makes me laugh. I would love to get a newer zombies that have similar effect to when they KO, Zombie Wolverine's arm or Cyclops' head, which grants a special power, and still hand out Z-Virus tokens when a character holding the object hits. So if you use like a zombie head and a close attack, and you hit with it, not only does it do +1 damage, but they get a Z-Virus token. Something like that.
Right. I don't remember Zombie Cyclops at all being a thing. Hawkeye had his head roaming around there for a bit.
I know Wolverine.
We never got one in Heroclix. Sure. We definitely never got one in Heroclix, but I don't think Zombie Cyclops is prominent at all in these actual zombie storylines that I have read. The older ones, I know they do make some newer ones now that I have not gotten to, but that is really cool. I'd be, interested. Zombie limbs. That seems very fun. I find it quite hilarious. Vigilante Jedi Legend said the Gem of Satiric. It adds a little flavor and is quote unquote viable from a comic perspective.
Ooh. To go along with that, I forgot the McCran Crystal, which was like back with Wolverine and the X-Men. Before a lot of characters had stop clicks, the McCran Crystal gave you like a once per game, I just don't die because I equipped this kind of thing. And that was pretty cool. Last but not least on Facebook, Justin Quinn Honeycutt says, Exospecs is so much fun, but it would have to be tied with Predator as a possessor, especially if I can use it on a piece that starts on click 4. Predator's the pink one, right?
No, I'm pretty sure it goes or whatever, and it's invisible.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Predator's the invisible one?
Yeah, no, it's the pink one. It's not the Arnold Schwarzenegger one. Schwarzenegger. However you say it. So he wants it to start on click 4 because it gives you shape change, quintessence, and mystics. All that jazz.
Sorry, I don't know. Never once played a entity, so I'm unfamiliar with how that whole possession and whatnot works. We have Ronnie on Twitter said, I'm a fan of the Venom symbiote myself. I'll go ahead and read the rest. Michael Fedora said, Exosex. CP Justice said, love the original Mjolnir and the Gem of Satarak, however you say it. We had great luck with them. Chance McCall says, I'm partial to the Infinity Gems, Symbiote, and Stormbreaker. I really love to see iconic things like Cap Shield, Hawkeye's Bow, Wonder Woman's bracelets, etc. We need a cool Cap Shield. You know, we have the Asgardian Shield. That's not Cap Shield. Then we have the Light Object. Doesn't really do anything. I would really like a cool Cap Shield. Hawkeye's Bow is basically a recurve with the extra draw strength. I believe that's like comic accurate. He has extra draw strength on his... it's not a recurve, it's a compound, excuse me. Well, sometimes it is. It depends which Hawkeye we're talking about. But really, it's a bow, and Hawkeye is the one that makes it do the cool things. So I don't really...
Yeah,
that's my only problem with bows.
Hawkeye's eyeballs.
Yeah, like, I can't just pick up an Olympic-level bow and shoot at an Olympic-level, you know? I'm like, I'm terrible with a bow and arrow. I can't do this.
Right.
Come on. Let me get 20 feet away from this guy.
Like, we've got... So, Exospecs is one of the few objects that has a restriction where you have to be 30 points or more, I think, to equip it. But Big Tony, just this, like, little-time gangster dude with a gun, can totally equip Mjolnir. He can totally, you know, put on the chest piece of Iron Man's Mark II Hulkbuster. Like, he can do all that, but can't put on Exospecs. They're too powerful for him.
Way too powerful. Those goggles, they'll melt his little brain. Oh my gosh. And anyways, intended up, we had Pedro Footy said, Batman's utility belt, which is a resource, but that's okay. Don't worry about it. Ain't nothing but a chicken wing. And that ends the Community Tuesdays section. Moving on to Jedi Legends Heroclix Tip of the Week.
You don't want to sell me death sticks.
I don't want to sell you death sticks.
You want to go home and rethink your life.
I want to go home and rethink my life.
Super Strength deals knockback. Anytime you use Super Strength to hit an opponent, they can be flung back along their knockback path, but it is optional. You can choose whether or not to use knockback. Super Strength's pretty cool. Sure is neat. Imagine if I hit you with the dumpster, if I could physically pick one up, that you might go flying. Or if you're dead, then you're just crushed underneath the dumpster. So absolutely, don't forget that Super Strength does a little extra since 2017. Thank you so much for that, Jedi Legend. Moving on, we do have one, we actually will say, blah, 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 blah. We have two questions. Malcolm Rush in a question block, but they're all very Christmassy holiday related, so we're just going to wait until our December, whenever around that time episode, and then we'll do that. Sound good? And then we have a question from Oregonus, sorry. Oregano.
Organis.
Yeah, Oregano,
like
Rob
Oregon.
Gibbs. Oregon,
and like
yeah,
organic.
yeah, super fan. Sends. We're just gonna keep going. You know what? However you say it. Don't correct us. We know how to say it. I just have fun. It's called having fun. Chill out. He said, "Here's an interesting thing that came up in my mind, and I'll probably flesh it out more. I'm not supposed to be blah 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 blah. For any particular character, how many versions of it do you feel comfortable playing? How many of, let's say, this is quotes, Captain America, would you enjoy playing and you feel could provide a realistic role on their team? For the record, counting shifting focus as one entry instead of as 3 or whatever. He can think of 6 Batman pieces that he would feel comfortable playing. So this is kind of, I chose a couple of characters from Marvel and DC, and looking at, like, out of all the ones that exist, basically, which ones would you even play? Like, out of the hundreds, not even hundreds, there's maybe 100 of these characters, or whatever, 20 of these characters, how many are even good or worth your time playing? Simeon, you want to start me off with your first character, and how many versions of it do you actually play?
So basically, like, making fun of, like, the fact that WizKids keeps pumping out the same, you know, like, each set, if it's an Avengers set, it's going to have, like, these 5, at least. It's going to have, you know, one of each of these 5, that kind of stuff. So the first one I went with is my favorite. It's Wolverine. And even though he's my favorite, there's only about 5 that I think are worth playing, or that I'll actually pull out of a box. That is the Super Rare from Xavier School. If you don't know what he does, it's just a stupid amount of stuff for 50 points. Plus, you can throw him on an ID card and have even more stupid stuff. There's the Regenesis Wolverine, which is just really hard to kill on the right teams.
I hate it.
Yeah, he's super good, and Kalder likes playing against it. There's the Days of Future Past Wolverine, which, even though Days of Future Past is a couple years back, he still has really good stats top dial, and it's hard to get him off of that top dial because he's just got so much going for him as far as like defense goes. And then I really like the Wolverine duo with X-23 from the Deadpool set. Same thing, they can't be targeted if they have only one. I think it's if they're not adjacent to like a character on their first click, or if they have more than one action token, you can shoot at them. Otherwise, they can't be targeted. Plus, they've got some regen stuff and multi-attack and charge, flurry, all kinds of cool stuff. And then my new favorite is actually the Dark Phoenix Wolverine. For 50 points, he shuts down Shape Change and Stealth within 3, the nose. And even though he's not the greatest attacker and he doesn't have a ton of staying power, you can kind of just carry him around if you need to shut down Stealth and Shape Change.
Right on. My first pick was Captain America. Out of the roughly almost 80 Captain America figures we have, I think there's 29 playable Captain Americas. I went through. There's a lot of really good ones we have that we've gotten recently, and there are a lot of amazing ones that go, like I said, as far back as Hammer of Thor. There's just amazing Captain Americas. So I couldn't name them all. I would say each one from Civil War is playable. Obviously, any Captain America that is in Modern right now, I think is absolutely playable. And yeah, so on and so forth. So Captain America, there's about 80, and I'd say about 29 are playable. Little bit less than half there.
Yeah, I'm not gonna count up how many Wolverines there were, because once you get back to like the REV, the sculpt's the same, but there's like
there's 3 versions.
There's probably
really
like
terrible
40.
Wolverines or really terrible Captain Americas.
Yeah. My next figure, I decided to go with Spider-Man because, man, I don't think we get an Avengers set without Spider-Man. I think it's just every single one has to include one, if not more than one. So I went 5 for Wolverine. Spider-Man, there's even less. There's only 4 Spider-Men that I will actually pull out, and for varying reasons. So I'll play the rare from Avengers Black Panther Illuminati, because he's just really broken. He can choose Giant Reach Flurry, he can choose Stealth Combat Reflexes, he can choose something that no one ever picks. It's like NCAP, 3 targets. No one ever picks that one, though. Being able to flurry your opponent with a 12 for 4, and he's got Shape Change, Indom, Invuln, and Precision Strike. Really gross. Plus, he can reach like the whole map with like a good TK. He can just get anywhere and really mess your opponents up. My other pick was the rare from Earth X. This is the one that comes with the web shooters, and he's a retaliator for Spider-Man family teams. So if I ever do play Spider-Man family teams, I usually throw that guy on just for that retaliation. He's not super good, but he's not bad by any means. The other one would be the Earth X keyword Spider-Man from the same set. But this is the one he's like 30 points, he's not a main attacker. His whole thing is he places people without like using TK. So he's kind of like a slingshot thing. If you were going to like throw somebody up to the front and take a shot, this is a guy that can yank them back. He's pretty cool because he doesn't have to like move through like the square that they're in. He just has to move adjacent to the square that they're in, and then he can place them anywhere adjacent to him. So he can use himself as like a human shield. And then I don't think you can get much better than Superior Foes of Spider-Man Handstand Spidey. I think it's 049 if I remember rightly. but this is the one with hypersonic. He's got a crazy cool shape change, which Spider-Man definitely should have super senses. Spider-Man should have the most super senses out of any hero. And those are my 4.
Right on. Next up, I went ahead and I said Thor. I can think about 12 Thors or so that I would consider playing. Most are modern age. I didn't count like Thorus and all of those. I did count Ultimate Thor, however. He was the only one I counted from Battleworld, as I consider him a more normal Thor Odinson. The Avengers Black Panther and Illuminati Thor is amazing. I quite enjoy... Oh, I should say amazing. He's very solid Thor. I enjoy both the Ragnarok Thors. For the Mighty Thor, I would say only the Super Rare and the 2 Chases are actually worth playing. I don't think any of the common or uncommon Thors are worth it. I know only one of them is only Odinson. The only Thor from What If that I half liked was the one that was under Seth's thrall, that rare one. I thought he was quite fun. I really enjoyed the Age of Ultron Thor, and I really enjoy the old AVX Thor and Avengers Assembles Thor as well. So, and King Thor, of course, amazing. So there's quite a few Thors out there that are really, really solid, even in Golden Age. And I want to kind of throw back to Thor, not the reigning, excuse me, sorry. It's the Mighty Thor from Supernova. I think he's way too bloated for his points, but I really like his top dial. If you were in a very big point game, like a 500 point game, and you want to play the Mighty Thor, he's no card, no nothing. He's 11 clicks long, though. He has 10 speed, running shot, 12 attack, super strength, 16 defense with impervious, 4 damage with range combat expert, the power cosmic team ability, 10 range, deity, and warrior. I think he's awesome. He doesn't get a 9, or he doesn't even get a 10 attack. Well, okay, he does get 10, whatever. He doesn't get a 9 attack until his last 3 clicks. One of those he does have range combat expert, and on his last 2 he has 4 damage. His defense is terrible. That's right, I said top dial 16. He does spike to a 17 on click 4. It goes as low as a 15, but play him with, Dr. Donald Blake, another version of Thor, or even what's her face, Jane Foster, and heal him back up to his fun clicks. He has Flurry in the middle of his dial with a 12 attack for 3. I just think, even though he's 286, if it's the right point value, he's absolutely playable. More so than quote unquote the right point value for a lot of figures. I really just like this Thor, and I really want to try to put him on more teams because I think he's awesome.
Nice. The one Thor you didn't mention that I would actually throw in there that I've occasionally played, and that's the Fear Itself one, the LE. Sure. The only thing super interesting about him that will actually, other than the fact that he is way overcosted by today's standards, is that he has a double power action ability. You give him 2 actions, and you make a closer ranged combat attack. If he hits, you roll a d6 that can't be re-rolled, and you replace his damage value with his printed damage plus the d6 result. And you lock it. Once per game, he can use that power as a power action instead of a double power action. So, I've seen this go really crazy well, where someone will double power action, and they'll hit you for 10, and then I've also seen it where someone will do it and they'll hit you for 5, which is the lowest he can really do. And so there's a few clicks where it's really crazy, but that's one of my favorite ones for that. My, let's see, third one here, I'm gonna go in order of how many I will actually play. So another one that I will play 4 of is the Hulk. So there's a lot of Hulks, but I really only play. So there's the Titan Hulk from Avengers Assemble. He's got the Titan tokens. I can't remember the storyline he's from, but he's an older Hulk that's he's got all scabby and stuff because it's radiation and I don't know. It's the end of the world kind of thing. There's the Age of Ultron Hulk, which I used to play a lot, but I kind of refuse to now because he's still really gross for 300 points. There's the World War Hulk from Avengers Defenders War, and that one's just really fun. I've never really got him to work as well as I wish he would, but he's got colossal stamina, and his stats don't go down after he's been hit unless you clear. And so he's one of those figures that you just push to death trying to, like, do something. And then the new Professor Hulk from Avengers Black Panther Illuminati. I used that guy so many times during Sealed because he was a common, and if you pulled him, he was just like, well, here's my, like, big hitter. Half my team is Professor Hulk.
Nice. The Hulkster. Really throwing him around. Next up.
Yeah, none of these are like the true Hulk figure where he gets angrier as he gets hit. World War Hulk has like a stop click where he gets angry, but I don't care about any of the ones from Thor. I don't care about like any of the ones from any of the sets where you actually have to like plan out how to play it.
Yeah. I
just like them be able to hit big right away.
Right on. Next up, I went through and I went ahead and did one of my favorite DC characters ever, Lex Luthor, my man, sexy Lexi. How many of them are playable? Now, obviously, it's going to be a little skewed, let's be real here. But out of the 25 Lex Luthors, I would say more than half, 13, are absolutely playable, and they all fill very fun different roles. Main attackers, like the one in Rebirth, and Lex Luthor God of Apocalypse, what I would consider very big main attackers. 2 secondary attackers, like a lot of the Trinity War Lex Luthors and the WizKids LE Lex Luthor, to a lot of support Lex Luthors, like President Lex Luthor, the Batman vs. Superman Lex Luthors, World's Finest Lex Luthor, the Fast Forces one, and then the animated series Lex Luthor, which is really good support figure. So I think this Lex Luthor has some of the most like versatility as far as a lot of these goes. You know, when he's attacker, he's a running shot, blah blah blah, whatever. And then when he's support, he's just like, hey, I'm here, got outwit, got leadership, maybe I might have perplex or TK or whatever, but like that's it. And President Lex Luthor is a really fun, beefy leadership, like 100-point leadership, which is crazy cool and fun to play. So yeah, I absolutely love a lot of these versions, and most of those are newer. There aren't a lot that I wouldn't play. I know Superman and Wonder Woman, the only reason that he's not on here is just because he's not quite 150 points in my mind. And to a lot of people, though, you know, Lex Luthor God of Apocalypse isn't 250 points, but I love them all the same.
Nice. My next up, so trending down now, Iron Man. There's only 3 Iron Mans that I will play, and that says a lot about who I am as a person, because there's so many Iron Mans that I could choose from, and I just feel like if I want a definitive Iron Man, I'm not gonna play like the weak version of Iron Man. If I want a Iron Man on my team, I'm playing the Avengers Defenders War Iron Man. Doesn't really matter which point value I play him at. He gets to pick a... Let's see, he does a free action, and he gets to pick 2 standard powers, except defense powers. And so, he's already got shape change on whichever starting line you put him on. But you can do Running Shot Pulse Wave. Hey, that's a fun combo. You can do Outwit Perplex. You can do Charge Flurry. You can do anything, because you get to pick 2 standard powers. Really like that Iron Man. My other go-to is the Super Rare from Earth X, who generates the Bystanders. I love Bystander generation, and that Earth X Iron Man with his Iron Avengers is really cool. He doesn't really do a whole lot until later dial, and you kind of hope that he doesn't ever get to later dial, so that's fine. And then the only other Iron Man that I'll even consider playing is the uncommon from Avengers Black Panther Illuminati, and that is the one that can use leadership. He's 50 points. He can use leadership within 6 square range, and he alternates between Outwit and Perplex. And so he's just this cheap taxi with a cool leadership power, and you can push him if you want him to like get to Perplex, but most of the time I play him for that fairly cheap Outwit. And he's actually a solid attacker. He's a 10 for 3 with 6 range, so there's been more than one game where he makes attacks.
Right on. Poor Iron Man, though. Oh, Simeon, so mean. What a dude. What a dude.
There's so many bad
there's a
ones,
ton of bad
though.
ones.
Like, I could just list the ones from What If. Like, there's like 7 from What If that
They're
I
all
could
terrible,
just
yeah.
go down and be like, this is why I wouldn't play this one. This is why I wouldn't play this one.
All right. For me, I'm doing characters that have very few amounts kind of now. This is more my joke. Guy Gardner. I love Guy Gardner. One of my all-time favorite DC characters. I just wish DC and WizKids liked him half as much as I do, because we only have 7. There's one that's a Green Lantern, who's terrible. There is the OG, the next version of Guy Gardner we have is the Red Lantern Guy Gardner, which is terrible. He has phasing, and then ESD, and then exploit top dial, with flight, indom, and innate range. Like, this does not scream, well, how cool his sculpt is, which is like him jumping at you, flying at you with the red chainsaw, and it's just, I'm not feeling that here, top dial. Like, then he gets involved later, it's just not a good Guy Gardner. There's 3 good Guy Gardners. I think the latest Guy Gardner is great. The OG War of Light LE Guy Gardner, I think, is fantastic, is still freaking amazing to this day. And then the Red Lantern Guy Gardner, I think, is awesome. The Star Sapphire one is just not quite there. For 103 points, I do not think he is as good as the Red Lantern Guy Gardner. And just as an attacker, it's just a very sad, very weak Guy Gardner. And it's kind of a shame that we only have so many to choose from.
Yeah. I have a Guy Gardner now. The new one.
Hey, good job. I don't have that new one yet. I don't know when we're going to do it, or if we already did it and I missed it.
All right, so...
But, you know, it'd be like that sometimes.
Trending down one more time, Superman. I've only got 2 Supermans that I will actually grab and play. I own probably 20 or more, but if I'm playing a Superman, this isn't 100% true because I have played other Supermans, but if I'm playing Superman, I'm not going to grab the KC Superman, I'm not going to grab Superman God of Strength, I'm going to grab Trinity War Superman, because I love that team ability that he boosts the Trinity and he boosts Justice League, and I'm going to grab the new super rare Superman with that like Rob Liefeld like hulking body craziness that he has from Rebirth. Those are the only 2 that I'll use going forward because they both encompass the best parts of Superman, and honestly I'm probably never going to play like all the KC pieces, so there's no point in really playing the Superman one.
Right on. Next up in my list is also Superman. Oddly enough, there are 0 Superman figures that I would ever play in my entire life. I own 0 Superman figures. You could not physically pay me to play a Clark Kent / Kal-El figure. It will never happen until they make one that has the right amount of weaknesses as to his strengths. I'm not going to play it. And even if I had that one, I still wouldn't play it because Superman is a loser. Moving on. What's your next pick, Simeon?
So my last... there's only one of these that I'll play, and that's Captain America.
Ooh.
No, I'm just kidding.
All right.
Actually, it's Nightwing. There's only one Nightwing I'll play. There's a lot of really good Nightwings out there. The one from World's Finest is alright. He's got some free attack stuff. The one from, what is it? Oh, the Fast Force of World's Finest was like the cheapest outsiders that we had for a really long time.
25-point Nightwing
and
was
not a terrible attacker.
Playable. He was awesome.
Oh yeah, he was crazy good. But the only one that I'll actually field on a team, whether it's Teen Titans or whether it's Batman Family or just randomly, is definitely the Rebirth one, because he's got his special damage power along with the Batman Ally and Titans abilities, team abilities. He's got his special damage, which gives him leadership, and then free, on top of leadership, he can choose either Close Combat Expert, Range Combat Expert, Perplex, or Outwit. And then you can use that power until your next turn. I played in a sealed, I pulled 2 of these, and so I put both of them on my team at 75 points, and then I put some filler. And man, did these guys do work. I got them into position, and leadership didn't matter that much, but the fact that I could outwit somebody's defense, and then one Nightwing could use like close combat expert or range combat expert, whichever one he needed, and hit the guy for 5 damage straight through. He's just super versatile. His dial's actually pretty solid. There's a lot of Nightwings that are like decent. They're just, it's like they took a Batman dial and they knocked a couple numbers off of it, and they were like, also, we'll give you leap climb instead of charge. And that's how most Nightwings feel to me.
Yep, poor Dick Grayson really gets the short end of that stick. To finish it off, there is only one of these characters that I will ever play, and that is, of course, Kite Man. Hell yeah. Until next time, we shall see. And that, ladies and gentlemen, will bring a close this immaculate episode of Dial H for Heroclix. Before we go, I want to remind you that you can find Dial H for Heroclix on iTunes, Podbean, and on most podcast servers, wherever podcasts are found. Facebook.com/Dial H for Heroclix. Twitter @DialH4. That's the number 4 Heroclix. Go ahead, if you want to write us questions like Robin did, you can do that either by joining our Patreon, they sent them in through our Discord server, and then also go ahead and check out our Patreon and see all the new cool prizing and everything we have. Big things coming for December. Or if you want to write us an email, that's @dialhforheroclix@gmail.com, or of course send it into our Facebook or Twitter pages, and we'll go ahead and read that question and answer those questions on air. Simeon, you want to read us out of here?
Absolutely. With the gift-giving season coming up, it's time to start internet shopping. So with that, Dial H for Heroclix is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day. They even have a handy little, like I've got somebody that's interested in this particular thing, or, I've got someone that's a card game player, or is interested in board games, and they help you buy gifts for them. And with that, they include all the latest Heroclix singles and sealed products. So you can check that out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Happy trails.